But let me basically introduce to this audience their credentials with respect to their individual open source CMSs. Steve runs the New York WordPress meetup. Then there's Ezra Gildesgame, who is an active member of the Drupal community, and he's also a contributor to the Drupal itself in the form of modules. And then we have Donna, who is the principal of Joom Sites LLC. I'm going to start out by just asking each of our panelists to give a 30-second pitch. You're familiar with this deal from before of what is WordPress, what is Drupal, what is Joomla.
Thank you. So WordPress primarily started out as a blogging platform, but basically using categories and tags and its PHP code, development of a very easy plugin architecture and theme architecture became a CMS. A simple CMS, but also a very powerful CMS due to the fact that it can be expanded quickly and easily. And I think that one of the benefits of WordPress is that a beginner, somebody who doesn't know any programming, can get up and running literally within minutes, or somebody who's more advanced can totally customize a full website using WordPress as well.
Great, thanks.
So Drupal is a content management framework or content management platform, depending on who you talk to. And it's really angled towards two groups of people. One group is people who are power users and want to build a site by pointing and clicking and not writing any code. And so it gives those people a lot of power to customize their site and make it highly flexible without writing code. At the same time, it makes it very efficient for people who can write code, developers, to build an even more specific customized site. And it's geared towards social networking and community publishing, where lots of people interact around content.
There are over 4,000 components for Joomla, and they range from calendars to social networking to a YouTube clone. I can't even think of a type of a website that you wouldn't be able to use Joomla for. You can use Joomla for e-commerce. You can use it for a company intranet, and it's very easy to customize the components.
First off, there are over 10 million websites run on WordPress right now. Some of them are hosted by the guy at WordPress.com. It's about 50-50. WordPress.com is self-hosted. So we're talking about 10 million websites that are out there. The community's big. It's a big community. That's one of the things that makes WordPress so amazing. There are in the blog portions of the Wall Street Journal, CNN, New York Times, Yahoo, actually Mashable, which I'm sure most of you know, TechCrunch, all built on WordPress, 100% built on WordPress, Smashing Magazine built on WordPress, GigaOM built on WordPress.
Some marquee sites that you might be interested in are theonion.com, which is a popular newspaper. Sony BMG Music is using Drupal for virtually all of their artist sites, and they've built a robust online music listening service, which is kind of an advanced web application called MyPlay, which is built entirely in Drupal and has resulted in a lot of code being contributed back to the community. Of course, Warner Brothers has followed along with that, and I guess we can name Britney Spears for the third time tonight, because her site is running Drupal as well. Other major publications like Fast Company and Popular Science are running Drupal for their sites, and it's also used in a number of other capacities by organizations, including Harvard Science, so the stem cell doctors who are collaborating with one another are using Drupal to communicate. NASA using it on some sites, along with some of the names that you mentioned, Yahoo, as well as companies like Novell, and IBM has put out some good documentation on how to develop a Drupal.
Some of the sites that use Joomla are the United Nations, MTV Networks. They have a social networking site called Quizilla. LA Weekly is an online publication. IHOP, the restaurant chain. Harvard University has a secular website that's on Joomla. Citibank has their intranet runs on Joomla, which is not publicly accessible. Outdoor Photographer Magazine, PlayShakespeare.com, Senso Interiors Furniture Design. There are sites devoted to Joomla freelancers. It's called Joomlancers, and I think there are some other ones also. On the Joomla forum, you can find a section for Joomla developers. It depends on what your needs are. If you need someone who's going to stay with you for the long term, then you're going to need somebody who has an actual company who's located locally. I don't know if Scott, you want to say?
I mean, one thing about Joomla that makes Joomla very, very good is its template system. So you can have any graphic designer can design it even in Photoshop, and you can easily cut that out and maneuver in the little areas they have into that. The back end, though, in Joomla 1.5, the core has been divided from the content. So you can play more of the content area, the CMS, without breaking down the permissions and everything else in the back end. So that makes it very robust. So you can have people in Vietnam with your one section, your local artist working on your front end, and you leave the core alone. So that gives you a lot of flexibility that some of the other CMS systems just don't have. Or they have them with a degree of difficulty. The learning curve is so high because it's so robust. It's beyond what most people can do. You have to really know what you're doing to get into some of the systems. And the other end is that they're too simple, so they can't really do what you need to do.
Sure, green and red flag. So with Drupal, something that you really want to look for is demonstrated experience building a Drupal, and especially community involvement. Drupal's got a really active user community of developers, and one way that you can see whether someone is really expert is that they've probably contributed to that community. So you can, for service providers, you can see whether they're listed on the Drupal.org service provider page, and also for each individual developer on the team, you can ask to see their Drupal.org user ID, and you can literally go to that page and see a list of every interaction they've had with the community, all the code they've contributed back, all the discussions they've participated in. And so if somebody has participated in building the tool that they're using, they're much more likely to be expert at using it. And Drupal is a system that can sometimes have some appeal for PHP developers who aren't familiar with Drupal's APIs, and you'll find that you'll have a much more efficient building experience if you use those APIs and you're familiar with best practices and you do it right.
Somewhat similar to what Ezra said about Drupal. I mean, the WordPress.org site does list official developers. The plugin site, which again lists about 4,000 or 5,000 plugins, you can easily see who's developed, who the most popular plugins are, and click on the author, and you would be able to see who that author is, what they've contributed, as well, popularity, feedback, very, very quickly. The WordPress community is a huge community, but yet it's really pretty tight. You do know the major players. You know who they are if you're in there. But if you do want to find, if you're looking for a program, you're looking for somebody, you're going to want to go to the WordPress.org site, and you're going to look at the developers, you're going to want to look at the plugin developers if you want something a little bit more advanced.
What's next, and what are you afraid of?
That all of us might be fearful of, so to speak, is that I think it's fairly safe to say that a certain amount of time in the future, 20 years certainly, these systems might not be around. We might not all be writing in PHP. Something eventually will replace these systems. And I think that that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, of course. That's